Welcome to Grey County Life on Rogers TV at home. We are your wonderful hosts, Rhonda and Charlie, and the lovely Miss Mary Jane. Good morning, Mary Jane.
Oh, good morning, Rhonda, and it's good to see you and Charlie Brown. We know he's there. He's just blending into the background.
Yeah, that's him. Well, it's a wintry first day of February, which I know that this isn't going to air until next week, but boy, oh boy, is it ever cold out. And I just wanted to give a shout out before we start, Mary Jane, with some very important stuff that's happening in the month of February. But I wanted to give a shout out to my friend Emily, because she's hosting something that I guess she used to do this before COVID, and it's a brunch. And everybody brings their fruit topping or what, and they do these waffles. It's a waffle brunch, and it just kind of inspired me to think that somebody's doing something like that to just put a little bit of brightness and lightness into our dreary month of February, which I don't know about you guys, but yeah, without the sunshine, it's a very difficult to keep that little skip in your step, isn't it?
Well, I think January is really only supposed to have 31 days, but it seems like about 45 days. And so we're glad to flip the calendar over into February, because February is really the kickoff for the Black History Month. And really, Black history is Canadian history. And it's really important for all of us to know and understand our history, and to honor the struggles and challenges and the achievements of our Black communities. And just a little history around that, because one of the things I love about Grey County Life is the research that I get to do. And I didn't actually realize this, but it was only the 1950s when there were initiatives around promoting Black history and Black History Month. And it wasn't until 1979 that the Ontario Black History Society petitioned the city of Toronto to just have it in the February as Black History Month in Toronto. It actually didn't come about until 1995 when it was actually initiated throughout Canada, and the initiation, of course, was by the first Black woman that was elected to the House of Commons. And you and I had the great honor of interviewing the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine last season. And she initiated it and brought a motion to the House of Commons. And of course, it passed. So since 1996, it is a national month to celebrate Black history. And I think that, in our day, this is recent history, not long ago history. And I think that's the concern, is that this journey is really taking a long time. But I appreciate what the National Film Board of Canada is doing. And they have specially curated rich and powerful in-person and online activities to keep Canadians learning, celebrating, and honoring our country's diverse Black communities throughout the year. So February really should just be the kickoff. And in order to keep that learning journey going throughout the year, you can visit the National Film Board's event page, and it lists all the things that are going to be happening throughout the year. And I'd like to be introducing some of the trailblazers in our Canadian Black history as an introduction to each of our segments throughout February.
Oh, well, that's a fabulous idea.
Well, we have so many Canadian trailblazers, and it's really interesting that some of them are in our very distant past, and some of them are more recent. And it's really interesting for me to go back and do that research and go, aha, I didn't know that. And I think there are many people in our community who are quite aware of our history, our Canadian Black history. And it's just something that we really all need to know and understand, and able to better grow our communities as very inclusive of many of the struggles and challenges that went before us.
Yes. And it's funny when you talk about these struggles and things, I find that the dialogue that I've been having in my own head and thinking that our children are struggling so much right now with all of the events in the world and what they're exposed to on the internet, and the climate, the war, the vaccine opinions that are out there that are dividing people, and the COVID itself, and the interruption that they've had in their lives, school events and everything being canceled, and being stuck at home. And I was talking to a friend about, he's writing a book, and he's including things about the war and how Ukrainians have been displaced and shuffled around. And it just, I don't know why, but it struck me that kids don't have it so bad, really. And maybe we have to shift our focus. They aren't in slavery. They aren't in a war, or a war-torn country. We do have to keep things in perspective and try to focus on the positive. And so I'm making that my mission, because there are still lots of kids that are struggling, and maybe we need to change how they're viewing things. If we can. I know that seems like a very simple solution to everything, and I don't mean to simplify the situation or the environment that people have, but I guess where we put our focus sometimes is really important. We've got 10 seconds. Sorry, Mary Jane. Open up a big can of worms, but we will be back with more Great County Life at Home. And Charlie might be here and he might not. We'll be back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Piper Post here with me for Knights. Tune in on Fridays at 5 to watch Knights hockey. Alessandro Supino here with Knights hockey. Tune in to Rogers TV 5 o'clock on Friday for the game.
Welcome back to Great County Life at Home on Rogers Cable TV and the internet these days. And I wanted to, before we jump in with our first guest, I did want to make a shout out and just a mention. I'm sure lots of people know Denise Freeman downtown. She had her artwork down at the Bleeding Carrot, and this is a lovely little thing that I purchased a few years ago. And she is just one of those people in our community that is a ray of sunshine and delight. And I was reading on Facebook, actually, there is a fundraiser, a GoFundMe page. Denise's son, Freeman Dre, who is a musician, has had a medical issue, and you can go on Facebook, you can find it. It's on GoFundMe. So if you're so inclined to help out, because there's going to be a lots of expenses and things of that nature with this medical issue. So just wanted to put that shout out because she is such a lovely person. But Mary Jane, I'm sorry for waylaying us, but yeah, we've got a really special guest today.
Well, we do, and it's my pleasure to invite Cayley Angell, who is the case manager for Victim Services of Bruce Gray Perth, because she has a lot of new information for us, and there's been a number of changes within Victim Services. And I hadn't met Cayley before, and so it's lovely to invite her onto the show to tell us about the updates for Victim Services. So welcome, Cayley. Thank you for taking the time, and you're actually on the road.
Yep. So thank you so much for having me on today. It's a really great opportunity to get victims out there and put the changes that we've been going through, bringing things to speed and making them 2023 and going forward. I know COVID had a lot of impact on everybody, and it's been a really long haul to take a good lens and see what we can do for victim services to make sure that everybody's being taken care of as quickly as possible. So that's one of the things I think we've really focused on is quick delivery of services.
And
so over and above having our 1-800. Can I give? So, with that respect, there are things that people who are victims of crime and tragic circumstances are entitled to through a VQRP program. One of them is, in certain cases of domestic violence or human trafficking, a cell phone, and getting that in their hands very, very quickly has been something that we've really focused on, and it's communicating with our community partners to make sure we know what those things are that they need really quickly. And one of the conversations was about cell phones. How can we get these to people quickly so there's not a waiting time for approval through our process. So in certain circumstances, we know that they would be approved for these things, but we want to make sure they get it quick and without worrying about paperwork or shipping. So we have these items in place with our community partners, and they just send us a message and say, yep, we've used one of the cell phones, and we just track it through and put it through on our database. So that's been great.
Well, it sounds like there's a web of collaboration through the different services along with victim services. But if someone, how do you become connected with victim services? What is the situation that makes that link?
So typically it's through our community partners, which are the police, directly through there. So it's usually a call into our line, or it's what we call an e-referral. So they'll send them the information based on whether the victim would like to communicate with victim services. So it's basically an approval process the police have on their end, and they send it to us, and we respond to it. And it's basically a needs-based thing, looking at which of our community partners could help out urgently in these situations. There's quite a few where maybe 2 or 3 community partners that would be able to help out. In certain circumstances, the Red Cross, we communicate quite a bit, especially if it's a fire where there's multiple people involved. We actually have an action plan and a committee for it. So it's our plan committee, and one of our staff is the representative for that. So as soon as anything happens where there's more than 2 or 3 people involved, one of our staff becomes that point person for connection with all the community contacts. So it is quite a bit of collaborating, and that's what we've really been initiating with this, is making sure everybody knows what everybody's doing.
Well, I'm sure, and very grateful to have the services in our community. But one of the things is that I understand there's a relocation. Was there not an office in Owen Sound, or is there still an office in Owen Sound?
So what we have done, and it's been a really great thing. So we did move our head office down to Stratford. So we're in Perth County. So we could reestablish our services there because it actually covers all 3 counties. What we also did was we collaborated with a community partner in order to still maintain an office space up in Owen Sound. So we did collaborate with Women's House, and they provided us with a space there that we can use when we go up to Owen Sound. So it's been fantastic sort of partnership that we've established, just reaching out and saying, hey, you know, we really want to still have some kind of space where we can send a staff member up and take care of things that need to be taken care of, because it's a large square kilometers total. It's a very large catchment area, but you know, we've really been making sure that we take care of things in a timely manner, and having that person there, and they can go up and talk to community partners, have those meetings that we need to have to establish those communication lines. It's been really great.
Well, it's interesting. At one point, volunteers were involved with victim services. So is that still a case, or is it now all professional folks?
So we do still have our volunteers, and we still do rely on our volunteer team, especially when we have what's called a 911 call. So if there's a scene that police phone us and say, hey, you know, there's been, for example, it could be a sudden death, or it could be a fire, we still have our volunteer database that we use to send a team out if we can get somebody there for that short-term emotional support and finding out whatever they need in that circumstance. Maybe they need somebody to call a family member for them, because trauma is present in all the calls that we have. And that's what we look at, and we make sure our volunteers are up to date with the information that they're providing to victims in those circumstances. And we are actively still recruiting for volunteers. I know it's been difficult. It's an industry-wide thing. We've talked to everybody, and they still do struggle to get volunteers on board. So that's we're looking at focus point 2023 and into the next few years is building our volunteers back up. So we definitely still have our volunteers, definitely still rely on them, but we've now made sure that we've established a full-time and part-time staff team to make sure that the call line is always answered. So we have somebody answering that 24 hours a day.
Well, I think when there's a trauma, you need that sort of arm around your shoulder, that support person who isn't necessarily a police officer. Although the police officers do a really good job and they do a lot of training in those support situations, but sometimes you just sort of feel that you need a buddy to kind of rely on, to take the reins and do all those steps and make all those phone calls that are necessary.
Right, absolutely. We find our volunteers are very compassionate, very kind, very caring. Every time they go to a call, their main focus is making sure that they feel the best they can in that moment, because it's trauma, and it's hard. Everybody responds differently. Everybody's trauma is very unique to them. And I think that's a big part of it too, is being able to respond to that uniqueness of each person, because everybody's an individual and everybody's a person. So we really have.
With the sensitive, sorry, Mary Jane. With the sensitive nature of the situations people are volunteering in, would there be an age requirement for your volunteers or a certain life experience? I mean, do you vet your volunteers in this kind of situation?
Yeah, we definitely do. And I look at obviously 18 and older, but we also look at, we go through the process of interviewing them through our executive director, and we do the background checks. We really make sure that it is the right person in that role. And we've been happy and successful with our current volunteer roster. So it is definitely something we make sure that they have that information that they need as well. Because we have our own training program. It's quite lengthy. It's 8 weeks. So they really have to go through and know each and every situation that they might face and being called out to whatever they're called out to, fires, sudden deaths, domestic violence. There's a lot of different situations, and then we gauge the safety of the volunteer. It's always that as well, that we don't blindly send them out. We always make sure that it's absolutely a safe situation for them to attend to. And that's a big piece too, is communication with the police when they are calling us in to these calls, to make sure that there's no missing information, that we have all the information we need, and that it is safe. I mean, weather plays a role in that too. It isn't necessarily safe. It could be weather safety. Is it safe enough for our team to even go out there? Because you don't want to end up with someone getting in an accident on the way to an accident. So we really take all of that into account. There's a lot of communication that happens behind the scenes before a volunteer actually attends a call. So, yeah.
With the teams that you send out, whether they're volunteers or whether they're professionals, are they located? Bruce, Grey, and Perth is geographically quite huge. So are your teams local so that they can respond in that area more quickly?
It is. We do. So we have a mapping of where our volunteers are. So when we get a call, we can call the appropriate team. So we do have volunteers in Bruce, we have volunteers in Grey, and we have volunteers in Perth. And it's really great because we can just access that on our database and find out who is the closest team that we can get there, and are they available. So we send that call out, and volunteers send in their availability as well. They'll say, you know, I'm available, 24/7, or I'm only available Monday to Friday. So we also know those factors too. But our volunteers are amazing. They're great at communicating, and typically they're available when we need them. We've really been lucky with that. We also send our volunteer teams out for our PLS, which is a tracking device that you can get through victim services, and it tends to be for elderly people that their family has had concerns where they may go missing, and it's connected directly with emergency services. So it sends a ping out and it locates them right away for wherever they are. And our volunteer team is amazing because the batteries have to be changed every 2 months. And it's just it's a really nice way to connect with the community and get out there and, change the batteries and make people feel still included as part of the community. So that's another program that we have on top of everything.
So is this for seniors who are living in their own apartments or homes, or does it include seniors that are in an official residence?
It can be anybody. So and as long as they have somebody that can identify that they've gone missing. So that's another key piece. If they're by themselves and they're wearing it, it doesn't really apply. But if somebody's with them and is a caregiver, they can at least identify that they've gone missing. So it can be in a nursing home setting, a caregiving setting. It can be in retirement setting. It can be in their own home. So
that's interesting.
Yeah,
so it's service.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We're raising funds because there is a cost to it, but we don't want that to ever be a barrier for anybody. So we've been actively making sure that we raise those funds, so that's never an issue.
It sounds like Victim Services is expanding their services from what it was years ago.
Right. Really trying to promote that stuff too, and what people are entitled to through the government with BQRP. They're entitled to, depending on the situation, they could get grocery cards. Usually we see that in a lot of domestic violence. And this is all run through the government and government funding for victims. So we want to get that word out too, and that's that communication with community partners and making sure that they are accessing us as well. So as much as we make a referral to them, we'd like to see if they would reach out to us, because we can get that stuff for people in their time of need. So it's been a great communication that we've been putting in place and just keeping it up. It's a lot of work. Even today we're heading up to Owen Sound to touch base. So it's exciting. Actually, it's a very exciting role. As much as it is 11,000 square kilometers, there's a lot of territory to cover, but we're doing it, so it's great.
Wow.
Yeah. And our executive director, Louis Muscat, has been just fantastic, like really putting it out there that we're there for the community and making sure that that word gets out there and initiating all these conversations, because they really don't happen unless somebody's actively, making those connections and saying, hey, you know what, Wednesday, we're going to head up to Owen Sound. We're going to talk to this place and that place, check in with the SOS clinics, really getting it out there, what we can also do to help, because it's such, in these times in 2023 and going forward, we need each other. We need to be that network.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's absolutely great that you spent the time to talk to us about it. I mean, I learned a lot of things, and we know that as we've gone through the pandemic, everyone had so many challenges that they had to deal with. And now that as we are emerging out of it, and still being careful, but 2023 offers a lot of possibilities to be able to expand and get back out into the community. And this is a great way for you to be able to promote what's coming forward in 2023 through victim services.
You got it.
Yeah, that's amazing. How much time? I mean, I know lots of different volunteer programs. You can volunteer as little as you're able to, or as much. But I mean, with that kind of an investment, how much time is a volunteer looking at?
Same thing. We really say as much time as you're able to give. There isn't really a timeline to commitment. If they can give 2 hours a week or 5 days a week, whatever they're able to commit, we're happy to have people on board and happy to have that are wanting to do something, because a lot of it is about community give back, and they just want to give back to the community. We see a lot of retirees, and that's something they just want to do, right? Be on board to help people in their community.
Yeah. Well, I think we certainly, you don't want to be on a traumatic experience without having that link. It's a wonderful service. So thank you so much, Cayley, for coming on to talk to us today about the possibilities and volunteer opportunities and everything that goes along with victim services. Thank you so much, and safe travels.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it, ladies. Thank you. I love being on today. It was great.
Okay, that's great.
Leonard Thompson, 13 years old, diabetes mellitus, 65 pounds.
Starve the child to let them live? The treatment's as cruel as the disease. It's a death sentence.
Dr. Banting.
This could be it.
He's the first to receive this trial.
But will it save him?
It's not pure enough.
So we try again. And again. And again.
Before the discovery of insulin, diabetes was a death sentence. Banting, Best, Collip, and MacLeod's breakthrough has saved millions of lives. Leonard Thompson's was the first.
Don't forget to tune in to Grey County Life on Rogers at Home next week.
We're going to be talking to Rachel from Home and Community Support Services.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
Welcome back to Grey County Life on Rogers TV. I'm one of your hosts, Rhonda Brown. Charlie is settled in for the rest of the segment. Mary Jane, I don't know what to do.
Well, it's always nice when Charlie Brown is calm and quiet, and we know that he's comfortable. Every once in a while, he does hop off your lap and disappears. So anyway, we have a guest today that I'm so pleased to meet, because of the work that he does is really quite important. So we have James Skarnikat, and he's a local musician and recording artist. But the work that he does and the music experiences that he provides is really kind of unique and special in a lot of different ways. And James, I'm really grateful for the work that you do in the nursing homes and the residents. So please tell us about your Jimmy's Old Time Radio Show.
Well, thank you very much for having me here this morning on Rogers TV. I haven't been with you folks for a long, long time. We've had a few interruptions in the last little while. So here we are virtual still, but it's all good. So my music has really been specifically tailored over the last 10, 12 years to almost exclusively be for residents in long-term care and retirement homes. I used to play bars and pubs and things like that, Wyatt and Willie Festival, all kinds of different things. And I started playing at retirement homes and long-term care homes just a little bit on the side. But it quickly took over. I had a long history in the industry. I used to be a nutritional manager in long-term care. So I sort of had an in to the industry. And I just learned that I loved those audiences. I loved the music. The times when I perform are always excellent. I usually play in the afternoon or in the early evening, whereas most other musicians are just getting started when I'm done. So I'm a little bit spoiled, and I've been entertaining seniors for over 10 years now.
Well, you are hailed as Canada's busiest care home entertainer. And our care homes are increasing in number. And so are the number of residents. So we're into that boomer zoomer age.
Yes. Well, there are, as you say, more and more of these facilities all the time. Like in Owen Sound, as an example, there's 2 brand new facilities, Southbridge, Owen Sound, and Owen Sound Gardens. I've visited them both already multiple times, and they're beautiful state-of-the-art facilities right across from the other great place, Seasons Owen Sound, and very near the hospital, very near the hospice. What a fantastic thing for Owen Sound. And in towns and cities all over Ontario and Canada, there's more and more of these facilities. So it's keeping this musician employed, that's for sure.
Well, we know that music for all ages and stages in life is very soothing to the soul. But I think that when you're in long-term care, as I recall when my father was in long-term care, music of a certain era was comforting and brought people out of their shell.
Absolutely. I really try to focus on the music that my residents would have enjoyed or still enjoy, hence the name Jimmy's Old Time Radio Show, because it is directly influenced by the music that they grew up with. And I sort of have what I call a bullseye method. Like say a resident in a long-term care home, say the average age is 90 or 95 years old. So I try to think, well, what would that person have listened to when they were 20? Because I sort of regard my late teens and early 20s as the time when music most influenced me, and I would imagine that's true for most people. So what did they listen to, say, in 1955, which would have been 70 years ago approximately? And mid-50s are sort of the bullseye right now, and that bullseye is of course moving forward in time. And I play a wide variety of material, though, of course, not just from the 50s, decades before and decades after, all different styles and genres and time periods. And yeah, there's a song that I'm performing lately. It's called Sentimental Journey, and from the 40s. And that truly is what my music programs are, a sentimental journey.
Yeah. Who sang that?
Oh, now you're putting me to the test. Multiple people sang it. Frank Sinatra and so on. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who I didn't realize there was going to be an exam here this morning.
A lot of pressure on Grey County Life.
There is.
Well, I know that my dad knew all the words to that song. My dad was born in 1914, and so a lot of the old wartime songs. And he did live to be 100. And one of the things he loved the big band music. And when I said to him, well, Dad, by the time I get into a senior's residence, it'll be all rock and roll.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking, boy, Jimmy, I hope you're around when I get into one of those places, because I'd love to have some, the Beatles and Led Zeppelin. And that would be so cool.
All through the month of January, I was playing a Beatles song. In January, I like to sing songs about winter, because if you can't beat them, you may as well join them. And there's a song from the Beatles called Here Comes the Sun, which means that the days are getting longer. And so the Beatles are creeping into my repertoire. Of course, I play a lot of different Beatles songs and more all the time. I don't very often get requests for Led Zeppelin yet, though, but it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. Do people do requests at your shows?
I do get requests all the time, and that's really how my repertoire has been built. Almost every show I chat with folks before, during, and after the program, and they mention the songs that they loved. And so I always write them down, print them off, and sometimes I learn them right away. I might already be a song that I'm very familiar with, and on rare occasions it's a song that I'm not so familiar with, and I'll study it for a while. I'll go to YouTube and I'll look at all the different versions. A lot of these great songs had multiple artists, like Sentimental Journey. It had multiple artists record it. So I'll check out all the versions I can find, figure out which one is best for my style and my voice, and try to transpose something that is still going to sound familiar to the residents. I don't try to deviate too much. I try to always focus on the most popular version, and I want it to be recognizable, because I'm not there for my own pleasure. I'm there to deliver music that they want to hear. And like you mentioned, big bands, Glenn Miller's Chattanooga Choo-Choo. I was just playing that yesterday, and very popular song from the 1940s, and not designed for guitar, but I made it work.
Now, sometimes, when we hear music, we want to get up and dance. So do you have situations where the residents just want to dance to the music and the songs?
Absolutely. Up-tempo songs always, at the very least, get them wiggling in their chairs. Now, there's various degrees of mobility issues depending on my on the level of care of my audience. I play in all manner of facilities, from fully independent to dementia wards, and so as you get into the older age brackets and the long-term care, obviously mobility is a bit of a challenge for some of these folks. And but I see clever things all the time. Like sometimes a recreation staff will just spin somebody around in their wheelchair and simulate dancing. And I had a woman a couple of nights ago, I was playing in Barrie, and she just went back and forth in front of me in her motorized wheelchair, just went back and forth as though she was dancing. It was a beautiful thing.
Well, I'm sure it brings back really wonderful memories of their youth, and they may, with mobility issues, they may not be physically up and dancing on the dance floor, but they certainly would be in their head.
Absolutely.
Bringing back those memories.
Yeah. It's good physiotherapy for them, even if they're just tapping their toes, clapping their hands, or, it's good for them. It's stimulating. It wakes them up. They tend to want to sleep at that age. And that brings to mind something that I've really been trying to promote more and more, are music programs in the morning. Roughly about only 5% of my concerts are in the morning, but more and more of these facilities are having concerts, at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning. And I think that's just a fantastic way to start the day, because they tend to want to just go back to bed after breakfast and just sleep the day away. But that gets them going, keeps them moving. And it's a good time of day.
That is a great idea.
Yeah. Do you find that people like to sing along with you?
Absolutely.
Like even with dementia, but those words are already embedded in their memory.
It's amazing. You know, some folks with severe dementia, they might have a family member beside them and they don't even recognize that person anymore, or what they had for breakfast, or, you know, all those things that you hear about. But I'll be singing a song from their youth and they'll know every word. Or it's just incredible, really. I call it musical miracles, because it really is true. And it just never ceases to amaze me how these memories are so deeply ingrained in our minds. I think it's really part of the core of being, you know, a musical species that we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Do you have a favorite memory of somebody, or any patrons or clients that you've sang in front of that spark a special memory for you?
There's so many, but there is one that's very special. Again, in Owen Sound. I was playing at then it was called the Maple View Long-Term Care, which has now been merged into the new Southbridge Care. But it was early in my tenure as a musician specializing in seniors music. And there was a fella in my audience. I never did learn his real name, but they just called him Curly. And even though he didn't have his namesake curly hair anymore, he just had this thin gray hair. But when I first visited Mapleview, he was, you know, slumped in his wheelchair, and the staff even told me, "Don't worry about him. He's unresponsive," they said. Well, I was playing my show, and lo and behold, if Curly didn't perk up, and he started tapping on his Kleenex box to the rhythm, and he even started singing along. And subsequent visits, he was always humming a song, a melody that I didn't recognize. And one day, there was, I think it was his sister was in the room visiting, just happened to be there when I was. And she told me, "Oh yeah, that's the song When I Grow Too Old to Dream from the 1930s." And that was Curly's favorite song. So I immediately learned it. And the next time I was there, I played it for him. And the response was just amazing. I think I played it for him 3 or 4 times that show, and every other show from then on. Even at Christmas time, I was singing this song. And then one day, Curly was no longer in my audience, but he really impacted my music career. He really taught me the value of these songs to these folks, and the value of time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when you said, you know, people from in their early 20s, late teens and such, that they're connected to that music. And it's funny when I look back, you know, it was exactly that. And then I had children, and my music was Skinamarink and You Are My Sunshine and all of these things. And I didn't listen to the current radio. I wasn't up on the new music. And I felt like you start feeling like you're an old lady because you're not listening to this stuff, or you're getting too old for the new things. But it is that you go back to that connection. It always feels like it was just yesterday. It's an amazing thing with our minds and our hearts.
I wish I had $1 for every time I sang You Are My Sunshine. I opened my show, every show pretty much, with that song, because it is literally my most requested song. And it always kind of opens up the room. You know, sometimes they're looking at me with doubt. Who is this guy? What's he doing here? And then as soon as I start singing You Are My Sunshine, the room just lights up, and yeah, it's amazing. And then it's good to go from there. And I have to agree with what you say about, I never used to believe it that, when I get older, I'm not going to like the music. It's kind of true. I listen to today's music and I shake my head. There just isn't any musicality to it. It's all machines and computers, but I like the oldies because it was real people playing real music, and that's what I always try to bring.
Yeah, real instruments.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking right now is, how am I going to manage Chubby Checker and the Twist with a walker and a wheelchair?
It's funny. I've never had that song requested yet, but I'm working on one that's kind of similar right now. Chantilly Lace.
Oh, yeah.
I just had that requested up in Midland the other day, and I'm going to be there in a week or two. I'm trying to get that ready. Very similar to the twist.
Is that Jerry Lee Lewis?
Yes, it is. And actually, he did it, but there's another one too. You're putting me to the test yet again here. But very upbeat. I just started playing Rock Around the Clock in the last little while by Bill Haley and the Comets. And I was never really sure, how the song is going to go over. You're never sure when you first release a new song, a new old song. But boy, Rock Around the Clock just gets them wiggling. And so, yeah, it's a staple of my repertoire now. So it's always interesting to see how an audience will react to a song that I introduce.
Yeah. Well, I would be very interested, James, if Chubby Checkers and the twist ever comes up in your repertoire or a request, give me an email.
I will make a note. Yes. I will make a note. I'll add it to my homework pile.
Now, are you going to pass this wonderful thing that you do on to any other musician, to bring them in? Do you ever have accompaniment?
I work alone so far for a few reasons. It's just logistically simpler. Instead of having to rehearse with somebody, coordinate with somebody, travel with somebody, I just deliver a real simple, pure music program. I go straight into my amp. There's no effects, no drum machines, no pedals on the floor. It's just, again, pure music. And so as soon as you start adding other elements, it just complicates things, setup time, and so many. And then with the pandemic as well, it's just simpler to be alone, one less potential contagion walking into the room. But I would love to add like a fiddle player. I think that would be really ideal for a lot of the repertoire that I play. But and also it's just more profitable for me to be alone. I don't make a great deal of money entertaining seniors, obviously. I play 2 shows a day. I have 2 today. And that's how I make ends meet. I'm very frugal and busy all the time.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like a wonderful way to make a living, but also spread some joy. And I can just imagine how happy people are when you show up. But Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about it. And you'll have me thinking about what my playlist is going to be like when I get into my retirement home. I'm going to start making a list.
Thank you so much, everyone. All the best.
All right. It was just lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Yes, you're welcome.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
It was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Are you the type who would keep going or stop? It's not easy to stop when you have an addiction. Legalizing cannabis won't stop addiction. It trivializes its consumption. Let's be vigilant. If you need help, visit portage.ca.
Gross.
Welcome back to Grey County Life on Rogers TV, and it's everybody's favorite segment, Adorable Adoptables with Miss Renee. And oh my goodness, this looks like a real bundle of joy too, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, he's adorable. This is my buddy Alfie. Alfie is a 3-year-old Pomeranian. Now, whether he's a toy or a teacup, or I'm not really sure, but as you can see, he's fitting quite easily in my hands. I would put him at about 6 or 7 pounds, just a tiny little dude. Pure Pomeranian in the smaller size. These guys can come a little bit bigger, up to 12, 15 pounds. He's not. He's full grown and he's only about 6. He's basically a giant hamster. I'm sorry, buddy, but that's what you look like to me. A teddy bear hamster.
Funny.
He is watching the show right now, and I find that absolutely amusing. He's trying to get Charlie's attention, or he was earlier. Hey, do you see him on there?
Oh my goodness, it's gonna work.
He would be the most perfect pet to sit on your lap and watch TV with, apparently, because it seems like he likes it very much. Now, Alfie has lived in an older home, which is sometimes an advantage to get a smaller dog when you're a little bit older, because they're easier to walk, easier to maintain, cheaper to feed, all of that stuff. But unfortunately, he is still very active in that he's very much a puppy in personality. Likes to spend a lot of time under feet, which is how poor little Alfie ended up here. Alfie wants to be on your lap. Alfie wants to be under your feet. So you need to be quite mobile and able to get around him. If you're looking for a small dog, that's the only disadvantage to this little guy. And unfortunately, how he became homeless, right? You're just one of those guys. He is very, very friendly. As you can see, I would never put a strange Pomeranian in my face otherwise. I trust him, which is good. He is also good with young children. He is also good with other dogs, although to be honest, he is a high risk of getting squished. Sorry, pal. So definitely a dog who plays gently with a small dog would be recommended, or some supervision, at least for the first little while. So he learns, he wants to be under feet. See where this could be a problem. He is good with cats, in saying that he does sometimes chase them when they put a run on, because it's fun. If you can imagine, it's like a cat chasing a cat. It's actually quite amusing, although we shouldn't really say that on TV, should we? No, it's kind of amusing.
It's so funny that you say that he's tiny, because he really truly does look big in the screen. I don't know. It's an optical illusion with the fur, or because he's right beside you, but he doesn't look so tiny. He looks like a big guy.
Well, it's an optical illusion or something. I don't know I could stretch my arm out as far as I can. I don't know. But he is literally like lighter than a cat. Would probably fit in a backpack. He's definitely not a big dude. Now he is crate trained. On the backpack note, I don't know where my brain just went with that. You could keep him in your backpack. I don't know. He is crate trained and only requires a cat carrier. That's where I'm saying he's that small. He has not been free running in the home for more than supervised time. So that's something to keep in mind. There could be some house training required if you're not going to use a crate. Additionally, he is very good on a leash and will use puppy pads in the house if you choose that option. In saying that, we don't generally recommend that, but if he ends up in a home that prefers it, well, I guess that's a bonus in that case. His training is otherwise complete, which is good. Right. You want to say hi again? Not again.
Well, I always have to check in with you, Renee, because I'm interested in how Tag is doing and how Henry is doing.
Yes. Henry has been adopted. Hooray for Henry. And we knew he would because he was so darn stinking cute. Tag is still with us. Oh, so sad. He's doing fine. He's quite happy here. We've become really good friends. He's had a few visitors, and the good news is he presented himself very well, which is awesome. They're all thinking about it. So we're hoping that one of that comes in for him. The good news is, as I said, he presented well, and sometimes that can be a challenge. Sometimes dogs don't meet strangers so well, and not in the case of him. He rolled right on over, wanted belly rubs and gave kisses and wanted hugs. I mean, so no problem. So we're hoping that that's pulled on some heartstrings, and they're going to give us a call. We're hoping. I mean, it's not always about how fast they go. It's about where they go to the right place, and that's the idea. So, I mean, although we want to say, hey, yeah, he's gone, and I mean, we do, but it's more about him being okay here and the right home making the right decision about it. Right. There you are again.
Good to hear. But I realized that Henry, as soon as I saw Henry, I mean, you're right, he was just so cute. But Tag is adorable as well.
He sure is. I mean, there are certainly people who want the puppies because they have small children, or they have a lifestyle where they want to be sure that the dog is going to be good in their home. And sometimes you get a little bit more of a promise with that with a puppy. Tag would be fine anywhere too. So we need to make sure that people realize that. I know some are turned off because he's a little bit older and they're worried about health concerns as he ages. But certainly we're not getting any indication that there's any problem. So hopefully somebody will give us a call soon. Right.
Something, Renee, like with Alfie here, would people be able to maybe take him to their home to see how he responds, or what it would be like?
Yeah, so we do have a return policy. I guess I hate to call it that because it's not about that, but we always tell people that we want what is best for the dog. We want what is best for you. We don't want you to feel obligated to be stuck. And it's not always with dogs, it's with cats as well. Sometimes they go home and the person turns out to be allergic, or sometimes they go home and they're like, you know what, this dog hates my mother, or whatever. And in those cases, of course, you can absolutely bring them back and absolutely get your money refunded. So there's no pressure on that front. At the same time, we recommend people take the time. We don't want you to come back the very next day and be like, oh, he peed on my floor. Hi. We want you to take the time to make sure that there's an adequate attempt made. I mean, to be honest, if people bring them back real soon without thinking about it or putting any work into it, we're less likely to refund money because it annoys us. But it happens. I mean, certainly allergies are totally different, or if there's a dog fight in the house or whatever. Every person is individual. But at the same time, we want to remind people in these cases, it's about making forever homes. And we understand that it can't be 100% all of the time. I mean, we're pretty good. We're pretty good at it, and people are pretty good about it. But, you know, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And under no circumstances does anybody have to feel they have no options. I mean, because certainly we want to be there when the time comes.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks, Renee. We hope Mr. Alfie, he's rather cute. Hope he has a really great week and finds his forever home very quickly. And we will see everybody again next week on Grey County Life at Home.
Bye now.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver. You've